Welcome to the Meebo Podcast. Whether you're starting out and have never hit record once in your life, or if you're working on your next big budget film, we want to provide you with the best tactical tips, tools, and pieces of advice to make sure that the next time you hit record, you're ready to go. Today, I have one of our mentors, I think is the best way to put it. I mean, you've been incredible as a resource to us as we've grown Meebo Productions over the years, and couldn't be more blessed to have Xavier with us today. So to intro this, I'm bringing Justin on because there's a great story about how we connected and how we know each other. So Justin's going to come onto the set here and kind of tell that story, because I think I don't do it justice because it didn't really involve me.
I forgot about that.
All right. I just wanted to start it off with the story of how we met you guys.
Yeah, you have to.
So first time I met Xavier, we were doing a project at Spaces downtown, and I left my tripod in the car. So I run down to the car, grab my tripod, I'm running up, and I walk past this guy. He kind of looks at me. I look at him. All right, that was it. I get down to the end of the hallway, and I felt these eyes on the back of my head. So I turn around, and the guy is staring at me still. And I'm like, what in the heck? So I'm like, whatever. So a few more minutes go by. I'm setting up, getting everything going, and the guy is walking towards me now. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on?
911.
Yeah, I'm getting stalked, and I'm like, well, maybe, just maybe this guy's like interested in what we do and just want, like, maybe he needs a video. So.
And Spaces is a nice place, and you don't hit a tripod, so you ain't getting jumped.
Right. So I start talking to him. I start my sales pitch because I'm like, maybe he needs a video. And we start talking. Then he has this French accent, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of wild. So we talked for a little bit really shortly. I still didn't know what it was. And he was like, do you have a card? And we exchanged information, and I let it go. It was over. All right. 10 minutes later, bing, I get an email from this guy. And I'm like, what is going on?
I want to go in between that. Justin comes up to me because I'm setting up the set for where we're shooting, and Justin comes on me like, this guy just followed me and was like staring at me, and it was just like
peeking
weird.
around the corner of the hallway.
Like I didn't know what to think, what to do, but he has my card, so I guess we might hear from him.
And then I start looking at your email and your tag, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a filmmaker. So that's why he was interested. And I don't know, an hour and a half later, we came up to your office, which you were in Spaces, and you divulged some of your story, which we're going to hear today. And you ended up being one of the most important people for us in our journey. And it was just a very funny intro to meeting you, man.
But what you don't know is that I saw you loading your car in Greenfield, where you live. I followed you from...
Yeah. It goes deeper.
So I just wanted to say that. I'm out of here now.
No, but just to justify my weird behavior, is that I was, it was during COVID. I just moved to Milwaukee, and I was really excited about meeting fellow filmmakers. So every time I would see a tripod on the street or a bag that looked like a camera bag, I would harass the people, just look at them. That's what I was excited.
Flattered. We weren't at all weirded out. We were very flattered. So
because also I did a pass. You guys didn't see me. I did a pass in front of the office where you were setting up to look at the gear.
Make sure we're legit enough to have a conversation with. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. So Justin alluded to a little bit. Take us just briefly through your journey. I mean, that accent is voluptuous to people that love the French accent, and you were born in France, obviously, came to LA, which we'll kind of get into what you got into there, and then to Milwaukee. So how did that whole situation play out? My goodness.
I know. Sometimes I look at myself, I'm like, what? How?
From France to Milwaukee, where? How the heck?
No. So what happened? I went to LA to become an actor, because I loved acting. So I went there, signed up into an acting school that at the same time gave me a visa that allowed me to stay. So that was great. And fell in love with acting. But then after a few years, I was, typecast as a French guy, French accent, French waiter. So it was not really making sense as far as a career. And then I got married as I needed to make some steady money. So I decided to go into, I wanted to stay in the world of movie and TV. So I said, you know what, I'm going to reach out to the people that I met. And eventually I got a gig as a PA, production assistant, in a very good production company And I said it was very good because the work they did was very good. And also the variety of clients that they had was awesome. That's why I got a chance to work with Disney, ABC Family, E! Entertainment, CBS. I mean, that was crazy. I worked also on I never told you that I worked on a redesign of the Universal Globe.
Oh, yeah. Like that logo animation?
We worked on,
oh my
I was
gosh.
part of the team that
Okay.
we did in 2004. Yes, they had the redesign of the
Yeah.
Globe. Now I was like, oh my God, I was not doing much at the time. I was just a PA, but just, being involved in
Having
that
hands
process
on it, you
was
feel like it's
awesome.
yours.
Yeah.
I mean, you take ownership of anything that
Yes.
you're working on.
So that's what happened. And then that, also the thing is I was an older guy to be a PA. PAs are usually, in their early 20s. And I was older. So I realized I had no time to waste. So I was really vigilant to my work. I was working hard. I was, getting coffees, getting lunch. I played the game. And then quickly they realized I had some potential, I guess. And I quickly became associate producer. It gave me more responsibilities on shoot, coordinating shoots, with the clients, with the vendors, with booking. If we needed a crane, we'd contact people. Could be casting, setting up a casting, setting up any type of pre-production work. And then we would also handle the post-production work, which was awesome. So I was associate producer for pre-production and post-production. So I would really see the overall, how the magic happens. And then after a few years, less than like a year or two, I realized that associate producer was leading me to becoming a producer, which involved a lot of emails, a lot of meetings, a lot of personal interactions, a lot of BS, schmoozing, which was not my cup of tea. And at the same time, I would see the editors, in the edit room, and I was like, man, that's where the magic is happening. I mean, we spent 6 months to work on that shoot, on the pre-production, and the guys got a week to make sense of all what 3,000 of people have been working on. He's in the room here. He's got a week. He's going to make sense of it. And all the mistakes that have been made in pre-production, there's always, mistakes on the shoot, things. Yep. It's still going to happen. And the guy is under a lot of pressure, as the countdown goes down. And I was like, that's cool. So I started to follow the editors and learn the process of being an assistant editor, which is the way in LA you have to be an assistant editor first. And then I got a shot no, I didn't get the shot actually in that company. That company wanted me to become a producer. So they said, no, there's no. So I quit my job with no leads. I just quit. I said, I need to find a job in a post house. Quit. And then within 2 months, I found a gig for TLC, the learning channel, to be an assistant editor on a huge show. Oh my God, they were shooting all over the world. So they had all the types of PAL, NTSC, 16:9, 4:3, plus the Chinese format, the Australian.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But after 6 months, I became my work and I became a lead assistant editor. And it got me even closer to the editors. So that's where I really fell in love with editing. Because again, here you have to kind of make a choice where assistant editing can become a full-time job. Like really good assistant editors they're not even looking forward to becoming an editor because it's a totally different job. Like editors on Hollywood movies, that's assistant, that's what they do. And editors have their preferred assistant editor because that guys, they're more like tech nerds, troubleshooters, and also like they're, how do you call that? CDD? OCC? When you like things to be organized and...
Okay,
yeah. So what is it? OCC? OCD?
OCD. Yep.
Yeah, because they got their shit organized. And so anyway, and that was not where my brain is. My brain is more creative. So I was like, you know what? Another path to choose. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go head full on to becoming an editor. Again, I quit my job, no leads, and talked to the people I met in the past. And someone said, yeah, I know someone at MGM, and they might be looking for a young assistant / junior editor. Said, how much you want to make? I said, I don't care. just the word MGM. I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
I got the job. I mean, interview, got the job. And that was my first gig as an editor, being alone in my editing room, dark room like here, working with the producer. And then the journey started, you build the reel. And then, slowly you move on to work for another studio, another production company. And And then to make it to the end, then I studied, I did that for 15 years. My career, I mean, I should say also there's another path I had to take. I was in the world of what we call promo. In Hollywood, you have promos, commercials, and film.
Yep.
So those three worlds, we have the same titles, editors, but there's no tunnel, no bridge in between.
Okay.
So you better make your choice early on the on the highway. Make sure you take the right exit, because then to move from one side to the other, it's not impossible. When you're older in the game, it's like you have to bite the bullet. And as an editor, I had the opportunity to work in film, but the guy told me you're gonna have to be an assistant editor, not even a lead assistant. You're gonna have to go down the ladder. Are you ready to climb the ladder? I was like, no, I did not. So it's something very interesting to know for the listeners and the viewers. Like, you got to start to figure out what you really like to edit, work on, because then it's hard to cross that bridge. You have to build the bridge. And anyway, so I realized, after 15 years, I kind of reached a lot of my professional goals. I worked with pretty much all the major studios. I worked with pretty much all the TV networks, I think. So I was like, what do I do? And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
COVID really, I was like, oh man, what do I do? Do we stay here to look for what? And then what I should say also, in the meantime, when I started to feel like my career was reaching a plateau, I started to get into filmmaking, independent filmmaking, which was cool because all my acting career kind of, being behind the camera, in front of the camera, then behind the camera, everything kind of merged together and make a lot of sense, actually. And then working with directors on set, I was like, oh my God, I know what they're talking about. I know what they are not talking about. So I realized, I got also a good eye. I learned for 15 years to have a good eye to compose a shot, to recompose a shot that was not composed correctly, And also, you give the pace to the spot, even if it's a 30-second or a 60-second spot, you have to create the pace and the energy and the beauty, also the beauty of the spot itself, the visual. So I was like, maybe I can do something into filmmaking, and I did. I studied again to reach out to the connections that I had. Did a couple of free gigs as a GP, and then I started to direct. I worked for a friend who's an actor, who's actually is now on HBO. So the guy is known in the business, and we've been friends for 25 years. So he wanted to start his own little show. So we shot the pilot for him. Didn't lead anywhere, but it was a great experience. Worked with some people. There was a chance for me to be the DP and the director, and then reach out to some local stores and companies, and I shot local commercials for Cadillac of Beverly Hills. There was a big client. That was cool.
Yep.
And then, people started to reach out to me, and nothing big, like 10 to 30 grand budgets, but it was like a small replica of a small set, You got your crew, you got your client that you cherish and take care of, all the things that I've learned. And it was awesome. And then there was a time for me then COVID happened. So, all that career switch, that new inspiration, filmmaking, COVID, being closer to my family, because my wife's from Milwaukee originally. We had family, my granddaughter is in Milwaukee. We're like, let's go work for the summer in Milwaukee. And the summer turned into, man, that's so cool here. We sold the house in North Hollywood and moved permanently to Milwaukee. Found a spot in Spaces to my little office, and then I went hunting to find talents or to find potential. So I'm sure there are people around here that are writers, there's filmmakers, there are editors, and not only maybe I can share my knowledge, that'd be cool, but so I can do some collaboration.
Mm-hmm. I think the most valuable thing so I had a business before, Mutable Productions, and it was so Milwaukee in general, and I love this city, and I plan to stay here for long term, but it's everybody's at each other, and when we met you, we're like, holy shit, like this guy's coming from LA, has worked with Disney, all these companies that, young guns like us in Milwaukee, especially a smart city, like aspire to be part of those things. And you're just like, let's just bring everybody together. Let's get the best talent. Let's put it all in one room, and let's just do some great stuff. Like tell me about that experience, like from LA. I'm sure you probably have a pretty similar opinion about the landscape of Milwaukee, but what is the difference between the two landscapes that you've noticed, and what's the solution?
Yeah, I mean, come to answer what you said about the way you saw how I came across, it's because when I came here, career-wise, I was good. I was not looking for, let's get a show that's going to be on HBO, let's shoot a commercial for Coke. I was like, I mean, it's not that I've done it all. I've done what I stopped when I felt I did what I wanted to do. Yes, I could have done more. I like to compare myself to a guy who played in the NBA. You don't know his name.
Right.
I'm not Kobe Bryant. I'm not whatever. It's one of those guys, baseball, whatever, major league like this. You don't know everybody. I worked at that level. Now I'm good. I'm going to come here, share my knowledge. And I'm not going to be like, oh, shit, they're working for that guy. I need to get that gig. No, I'm going to help, not only help because I want to get something out of it. The something is not money. There's something, eventually money, yeah, of course. But it's more the collaboration, being open to young people who are hungry, who are exposed more to the new technology than I am. I'm getting, not older is not the word, but older school. So that we don't always have in LA because the budgets are so big that people like you don't have a voice, Right. So here you have a voice, and companies like you and kind of run the show here. I never told you that, but you run the show more than you think you do, because the big companies in Milwaukee, their work sucks because they think they know what they're doing. They're lucky because they have the clients that they've had for 30 years. The clients don't really know. They believe, when they see lots of cameras and lots of gear, say, okay, they must be good.
I'm getting my money's worth.
Yeah, but that's not that. No, so you guys don't know, but you kind of rule the game. You're the future of cities like here, because the more we're getting into social media, the formats in the 9 by 6,
9 by 16.
9 by
16 by 9, horizontal, 9 by 16.
Right. All that stuff, that's the future,
Yeah.
And you guys know Instagram, you guys are great at it. And so where was I going with my point? So the difference, yeah. I mean, you still get the same competition as you get in LA, of course, but here it's on a smaller scale. And there's way less people, the competition. But at the same time, the competition is less, but the gigs, the potential of gigs is smaller too. So that's what I was explaining to you guys. It's kind of, I almost feel bad in a way because I'm like, those guys in general are working so hard, but for what? That's right from the beginning, I said, let's do something. Let's get those people from Chicago. Because I worked here, collaborated with a couple big companies here, production companies, and they would say, yeah, no, we can get those gigs because they all want people, directors from LA. I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
So why don't we use the French thing, LA experience? Like, that's all it takes, So when I saw you guys with all that potential, I'm like, I want them to reach higher, like go get those people in Chicago, Nobody has to know that you're in Milwaukee, Present yourself as a big production company, build your reel, be ambitious, work hard, and then you're going to get those clients. And then Milwaukee is going to become a hub of, strong, solid gigs. One day we're going to build a freaking studio where we can shoot, like 30 feet high ceiling. That's what I see in Milwaukee, that I don't see in LA because LA is saturated and you need to in LA eventually, but maybe not. Maybe you do the thing here in Milwaukee because I think it can be done.
Yeah, obviously we're trying our best to galvanize the city, and I think it's so easy for people to look, we are a business. We have to put food on the plates for our families. So we have clients, but recently Justin's done a lot of the head work on this, but I've kind of followed a little bit of just meeting people fresh out of college or doing their seniors projects. And it's incredible to see, I own a business, so I'm coming from the client side, but Justin's working on getting that creative side. And it's there are so many people that just love doing what they do, are good at it. And it's exciting to see because I think it's such a bright future here. But I think the valuable thing is I don't want people to get scared that there's not enough work, because I think there's always work to be had. I don't know if people are just, don't have the skills to go get that work or are afraid of no's. I don't know what that answer is, but it's exciting to see what the future is because there's so many fish in the sea, for lack of a better term, in terms of clients and you know, people are so hell bent on like competition and this and that. And it's like, there's so many amazing companies that are built in Wisconsin, built in Milwaukee that need stuff done. There's so many possibilities for people to get clientele that, you know, if somebody from, I don't know, Washington State hires us, like we're not opposed to going and flying out and getting the job done. Like it's not like you're locked into the zip code that you're working within. So it's, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'm excited for the future of Milwaukee.
No, but I think you said something that's good. I never really thought about that until you said half of it. Is that what's happening now? Also, companies don't really know what they want and what they need, because they know that the marketing tools are changing. There were, of course, social media, but things are changing. Like Twitter suddenly disappeared. What do you do when you rely heavily on Twitter?
Yeah.
So people are, especially the bigger the company, usually the kind of older school and the more resistant to changes people are. So at the same time, they don't really know what they expect from the creators. And the creators, the younger creators, they're like, I know one thing, because also the tools have been made so easily available, cameras. And so everybody thinks they're a filmmaker coming out of school. Then they kind of realize, am I really? So they don't really know what their offer is at the same time, and then you have the client that doesn't really know what their demand is. So there's like two things where it's like, I don't know what I want, and don't know what I'm offering. I don't have the experience, and I don't know if I have the tools. So that's what's kind of interesting too, So
because we work with both sides.
Yep.
We work with companies that are like, take it, just tell us what's going to happen.
Yep.
Sweet. We also have companies that are like, we don't want you touching any of that creative. We know exactly what we want. Here's what you're going to do for us. We like both. Both fit. Like we love being able, because like I said, we're a business, we have to put food on our plate. So like we don't mind doing those things because we know that whenever there's a chance, we're going to utilize those resources, the relationships. I mean, the commercial that you helped us, you got BTS for, that was one client that is a school district and a client that needed kids. And we're like, boom. But I don't know if that's something that people are readily open to consider.
Yeah, I mean that I think those things you find out also as you build your business. I think it's good to ask yourself a lot of questions. It's part of looking into your market. So I don't have the answers, obviously, but I don't think anybody has the answers. But I think what's good, as long as you keep asking yourself those questions, then it means that you're exposing yourself to different things, which I think for me is key. Just be open, reach out, be open to collaboration, create collaborations. Sometimes don't collaborate, just be open, just work. Just realize that every time you're working on your craft, it's like you go do your run every day. You're getting ready for the game that you don't even know if you're going to make it to the game, but it's kind of the same thing. You just keep practicing your craft, practicing you guys as a binom. One is more the business side, the other one is more the tech side, whatever, creative. Each work, at your thing, keep growing, and then eventually you're going to be like, oh, crap, yes. Like with my career, I had no idea that one day I'd be, when I didn't mention one of my spots made it to the top 50 spot of the year.
Okay.
Top 50 promos, you have maybe like 600 a day.
Yeah.
So do that by the year, maybe like 300,000 spots. And mine made it to the top 50. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You would have told me that 10 years before, like, I don't even know what word you're talking about. So anyway, to bring it back to my point is that as long as you keep, you're open to anything and you work hard on your craft, things they will not only come your way, you're going to get to the things, So I think that's why you guys are here in Milwaukee. Like, cooperate, keep learning, talk to people like me. Don't take everything people like me say for, there's some BS in it probably. There's some,
the more opinions that you have, though, you obviously, it's up to yourself to not be so hard-headed about what feedback is coming in. But like when we first had our conversation, you showed us some stuff that you would work on. We showed you our reel. You had already seen some of our work once we mentioned that was us. And it's like, it was cool to get a perspective of somebody that works so hard in an edit to be able to say, okay, this is where this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And Justin and I are strong enough to be able to say I agree or I disagree. And, you know, again, everything has its own intentionality.
Yeah.
So maybe you're thinking of it, but whatever. But it is, I think, important to have your ears open, because you never know when something is going to be something that you're like, oh my gosh, like 3 years from now, you'd be like, man, I remember when I heard this piece of feedback, and now suddenly I'm, you know, it's in the back of my head. It's just happening in every project I'm working on.
Which is hard, because especially when you're young and in a creative world, you know, it's hard to be, I mean, you still have to be strong about your vision, of course. At the same time, you have to be open to feedback, to things that might not go your way. So it's hard, because creative is not, how am I going to tell you that it's wrong? Because the word wrong doesn't really apply, you know. I'm going to tell you that it's not working when you think it is, you know. Nothing is really tangible. So at the same time, you have to be strong and feel strong and solid about your creative vision. And at the same time, you have to be, not weak is not the right word, but you have to be open to, not weak, but what's the word?
I know what you're trying to say. Like
vulnerable.
You
have to still make yourself vulnerable to shit. Maybe I could have done different, or different doesn't mean better. I could have done different.
You're not shitting gold every time you go to the bathroom.
Yes.
And I think people need to understand that.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of getting into that. So what did you learn as an assistant editor that, you know, you think might have been some of those big valuable lessons to take you to getting that top 50?
As an assistant, I mean, I learned about being, you say rigorous?
Yeah.
A rigor.
Yeah.
Like you have to be super organized, you have to cover your ass so many times as far as saving files. Because it only takes the one time. You're going to, for 10,000 times, your media is going to be safe, and the one time it's not, that's it, it's gone.
Yeah.
And you don't even need that one time. Why? Especially nowadays, it's super easy to back up. So like being super organized, super backup. I know it's something that you hear all the time, but it's
3, 2,
so
1.
freaking true. Yes.
3, 2, 1.
You have to. So yeah, be organized, communication is very important, because when you work with an editor, you know, you have to be able to understand what he needs more than him understanding what you need or what you're trying to say. So communication is key. Understand what he needs, what he's saying, and troubleshoot. Troubleshooting is, as an assistant, that's what they need you for. Organize the media and troubleshoot. If there's a problem with the computer, with the files, conversions, you know, you have files coming from all over the place. What's the best codec to use? What's the best media source? Where do we store it? Sometimes, every time actually, the production company is going to ask you what codec you want us to use. They're very open.
Right.
And the question usually ends up on the editor. What codec should we use for that format, you know? So things that are very technical, things that you need to know. So that's what I learned as an assistant, being super organized, super rigor, and super, again, OCD. And that's what, those are the key things. But those jobs don't exist in Milwaukee. Assistant editors.
I think that was, as you were talking kind of about your journey, I'm just thinking in the back of my head, like, dang, that path really doesn't, not yet, but it doesn't really exist here.
Yeah.
So take us through what makes a good edit.
So it's one of the worst things, because it's almost like what makes a good sauce, you know, when you're in a kitchen. Like you take the sauce that the chef just made.
It is opinion based, but what, I mean, we can be just high level key terms.
I have an answer, but I'm saying that's what makes it so hard to explain editing, because when you take the sauce, it's hard to say like, oh yeah, I love the onion that you put in there.
Right.
So edit is the same thing, like probably something that you all heard before. You don't even notice an edit. That's all kill. You don't notice an edit. You don't know there's an edit. You don't even talk about an edit after you watch something, you know? Because then if you start to talk about the edit, unless it was intentional, like those spots that are super editing, these flash cuts everywhere, they make the cut like trailers.
Yeah.
Are all about, I mean, less and less actually, depending on the movies. There was a period like in 90s or early 2000 where it was super choppy cuts, like it was
definitely
lots of effects in the transition. That was all about the edits. So a good edit, it's like when you watch a good movie, you don't talk about edit. You don't talk about the edits. So now how to get to that point, that's the freaking years of experience that it takes to understand that even a 10-second thing has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And then the flow of the visual has to be created. The flow or the unflow. You can create the flow is, the images just go together. And if you want what I call the unflow, if you can do that on purpose, it's like a jump cut is a good example of what I call an unflow. Because a jump cut, I'm drinking my cup, but you make an edit in the between the time the cup gets to my lips, so we start here, now the next cut is here. That's what I call, it's an unflow.
Yep.
But there's a reason for that, There's going to be a reason in your cut to do that. If there's no reason, probably some friends are going to say it looks cool. But if you don't, and you should not have to tell me what's the reason, that should play by itself in the spot. There's a reason why there was a jump cut. We're cutting time. We want to create a sense of emergency, in that spot. So those are the things that you learn with the craft. And also, we had the luxury to work with producers in a room. So producer, comes with a storyline. It's like the director in a movie. They have the storyline for you. So then you put things together for them. And you have a live feedback that you don't have when you guys work alone on your cut. It's your eyes, then it's going to be your wife's eyes at best, or your best friend, or in your case, at least you guys work together, but still you have the same vision from the same company.
Right.
So you don't have that eye with the producer who is dealing with the clients. He knows exactly what they're going to want. So that's a luxury that here you don't have, and that's hard to get. That last pair of eyes that's based on experience and knowing exactly what we're after. So that's a luxury. So a good edit, that's what it is. Good edit is to know your footage, know what you have. Because the tendency is to go quick to picking a few shots that you remember from the shoot. Oh yeah, I know this one was good. And you start to build your sequence too early. And then you kind of marry to those shots. And then it's hard to get, maybe there's something better than that. You're not even there anymore because you just remember that shot that was good. You don't even think that it could be something better.
I suffer from that.
And better doesn't mean, I would say there's better, like a better angle for the same action, but maybe there's different. But now you can even see different because you're just stuck on that. So first know your footage and give a chance to every cut. Give a chance to every cut, every scene that you shot. Give them a shot. Watch that scene. Watch each clip should deserve for you to screen it. Because you don't know, something might make sense that didn't make sense on the day of the shoot because you didn't need it. But now that you've seen different things, it's like, oh shit, that, like the typical thing in interviews, like now, the great shots are before and after action and cut.
You hit record a minute and a half before the interview starts. So you
because
let
the
it
guy,
roll
that trick, the guy becomes more relaxed and more, I'm going to interact with something outside the set. So we know that. But it's kind of the same idea with those scenes that you didn't get what you wanted, but maybe you get something else. So give a chance to each clip, do your homework, take the time to screen. Then organize, that's the way I work and most people work. You should have sequences for, I'm talking about like promos, commercials,
Yep.
So you should have, unless like what you guys do very well, you already, your shoots are ready. You have already all your...
Selects?
No. You already know what you're going to shoot. You call that's going to be cut in post.
That's what you
vision
think.
board. You have your vision board.
Yeah.
Everything is ready. So you already know what you're after,
Yeah.
So I'm talking more about if you're shooting... Wait, cut. Where am I going with that? What was it?
Storyboard?
Storyboard, that's the word. Yeah, I'm talking about create the sequences. Yeah, sequences.
Sequence with storyboards and
the sequences it's more like when you work on, I would say, a movie. Because when you have a storyboard, that's my point. Yeah, when you have a storyboard, like you guys do very well, it's a little easier because you already made the edit before, and the more experience you get, the better your storyboard's going to be. The client also approved the storyboard, so they already have the vision of what they're expecting. So usually you stick to that. So it's easier to go through create your selects and create the best of the first shot, the best of the second shot. Now, if you're working like short movies or documentary style, like you don't really know what you have. It's you just shot, because sometimes documentary you don't know what's going to come. So that's when you need to be organized with your sequences. Create a sequence with the best close-ups, sequences with the best wide shots, best. I don't know if there's something that happened during. Anyway, like be very specific about each sequence. So then when you're building your story, your final sequence, and you have those bins. Better than beats, you have shots that are really ready for you, instead of going back to a clip and hoping you're going to find the marker.
Yeah, if you have an empty spot, I've got this sequence already built out of all these things. I just need to find which one I want here.
Exactly, yeah. So very true for short, especially movies, short movies where you have several takes, build the best of the best sequences with the best, what we call hero shot, the perfect close-up and of the sequences. It's like drawers, and then I can pull in that drawer. It's labeled already. But the problem is that it takes time. I think you got to do it. Otherwise, you're going to let things on the side.
It's funny, Justin and I do edit very differently. I will meticulously go and I'll, like let's say we have interviews, I'll cut out everything that's not part of an answer. And then I have a timeline that's just all of the answers. Justin will just do it. He'll have the questions or the storyboard, and he'll go through and all right, here's this, and he'll do it linearly. Yeah. Whereas I'm like, all right, I don't, and I would say that's arguably more my fault, but that's just how I work, because it's like Justin has a much better idea of like he can see it start to finish, whereas I'm like, maybe I take a little bit too long to give some things too much of a chance. I mean, you said it's good, but maybe sometimes I let it go a little too far. But it's interesting because when we have projects that we are in full control of, like you said, the pre-production is by far the most important part, because we already know when we go to bed before the shoot day what that's going to look like. We can picture it all in our heads. Whether or not we got approval, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be what is on TV at the end of the day. But it's interesting because there's such a different level of confidence in the edit when you have shot all of the footage, when you've been in pre-production. So what is it like when you haven't done all that and you're getting everything with a very strict, this is what I need? I mean, you said you work with producers and it's live feedback, but what is it like when you're kind of seeing things for the first time, when you're like, I mean, you have experience on all parts of production, so you're like, they probably could have done that there or this, so how does that play out?
So that's a good question, because that's another reality, and a reality that you might meet here one day, Some people might say, clients say, what, our editor disappeared. You guys are a post-house, production house. Can you edit that? So, that's part of one of the skills that you develop is that you take your time. I mean, first of all, you need to know how much time you have. That's always the first question. I can do anything, but how much time do I have? When do you need the first one is delivery? And when do you need the first cut by? Because that also guides, how much work you can do. And then the more experience you have, the stronger you can be, not stronger, but more firm with the client, to bring the expectations to reality, If you give me 300 hours of footage and you want me to give you a cut in 2 days, you should, the math, I'm going to...
literally, I'm not able to do that.
It's not humanly possible. So that's when you're young, it's harder. So you do.
You want to be a yes man.
So you're a yes man, which is okay, because you know what? You learn that it's so hard. So next time now you're going to build that confidence that allows you to say, I cannot do that. So anyway, that's part of the skill. And also on the bigger shoots, they give you have a script notes that give you some of the clips and elements that you already know, scenes that are not. You don't have to watch it.
Are you getting most projects with selects already taken care of?
Some promos, yes. The producer, and it depends on the producers.
True.
Some of them are awesome. They just give you the perfect cut because they just watch all the takes. Yeah. They have a great eye. You get the cut that they get. It's the right one.
Takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah. Don't tell them. But some others, they just don't know. They say, I want when the guy says this, when the guy. So then now you have to go find the when the guy says. Yeah. You have to watch all those things.
When you don't know the order of the questions, you don't know what was asked, when was asked, how it was asked.
So yeah, it's called a log. Usually they give you a log so you have an idea what was shot and when. and when was the best take. So that really helps, and you learn to read those logs. So that's kind of, it takes at least usually 2 days of prep. I mean, then depending on the length of the final product, but you have that due diligence to do, to take for 2-3 days. You stop your brain from being creative. You stop your brain from trying to, I know that's the shot. That's when don't do that. Just to get familiar with the footage, do your screening, pick your shots, and then everything, like I mentioned, is in the drawers. Don't rush it. And then you start the editing process. So it's more like left brain, right brain. Like you have to switch, just no creative to then now I can be creative.
How do you get into quote unquote the zone when you're editing?
That's awesome. The zone, guys, you should try it. The zone is awesome. The zone, it's when you get everything that you know you need, and now your brain is free from, oh, maybe there's something else, or maybe, I don't know, no. You know, you got everything right there in your little bubble, and you're just juggling with those pieces that you put together, bing, bing, no, this one may be here. Let me add 3 frames, watch back. It gives me goosebumps as I'm talking.
Yeah.
Because you're right there, and then suddenly you get that click, that soundbite that just worked perfectly. Then the edit, you change a little bit, then you bring that shot over here, you try this one, man, that's what the zone. And then when you play with the music, and oh my God.
So what does your environment look like? Are you somebody that, like, do you have like a playlist that you listen to? Do you have like some smells going on? You got some incense being burnt?
For me, playlist is pollution.
Okay.
Because when you're going to need music or not need music, how can you, it's like making food or drinking wine with chewing gum.
Yeah.
You know,
I know what you're coming from. And maybe, because a lot of what you worked on probably had music or had vocals, but like, you know, for me,
no. I need music in everything I do.
Yeah, true. But I'm saying, I guess what I'm getting at is like, you know, there are days where like stuff that we work on is like not sound intensive.
Because you have a playlist.
I have a playlist. Justin and I both. We'll call each other, and all of a sudden, you know, we hear the music play.
No, I get you. No.
That's kind of where I'm like, kind of getting at. Like, what does your environment look like?
I mean, I'm serious. I never have music playing.
I get it. I mean, it's the right.
And I'm not. No.
With sound sensitive,
but it's
that's
fine
the right way to play.
When you put, especially the work you do again with your storyboards are so solid that you're putting the pieces together. So there's no need to look for any zone. I mean, the zone comes once you know your edit is rough cut. That's why the zone needs to find that zone where now you're nothing with the music. Now I just listen to the sound bites. Yeah. That's how I do usually. I mean, every time. I start with an audio cut. Like, first thing I do to get into my zone, I don't look at the video, and I just play the audio of my cut. So that's going to give me the first rhythm of the cut, you know. And then that's when I'm going to add some, move the sound bites a little bit, I guess, to get the right timing. Then I'm going to add maybe some sound effects, like if I need sound effects for some reason. And then that's when I'm going to start to bring some music in, And that's when now you need. That's where the zones start to come, because, the music, you have your spot that's playing in the loop in your head, and then you're going to start to bring some music or sound effects, and then everything's going to really start to take shape or not. You're going to feel like, oh, shit, no, that's not. And then slowly you get into that zone. And then when you get the right track, now you really start to finesse your editing and add that 1 frame, that 2 frame that make the difference that nobody will ever talk about. But you know that it's.
When I first started, this is a fun story. When I first started, I was making montages of like video game gameplay. I would purposely hide something in every single edit that I made, and it was only like to like a drop of a song. And it was like 20 seconds long, but I would always hide something. So like one I had like it was like a sniping montage, and it was like 10, 11 kills in a row, and I had like a kill counter in the upper corner that would like animate with every kill. I would like comments, oh, this is so cool, love this. I'm like, where's my person that's gonna notice that? I know. But like that's the stuff that like I'm like, like that's what makes my soul happy at night, knowing that like, because it's like you said, it dissolves in the whole edit because it's meant to be there. Yeah. But like in your head, you're like, that's my baby. I did that. Like,
but at the same time, that's, I like you said that, because I forget to mention that when I talk about editing. Like, sure, nobody's going to tell you the edit is bad or the edit is good, but the effect on them
Yes.
That's the thing, but they don't know. Like, you could show a bad edit, people are going to say, yeah, it's a good movie. And with the same movie, with a good edit, it's going to become a great movie. And so that's the thing, like a feedback from someone, nobody's going to ever tell you, yeah, I don't know about the edit. It's really... So that's why it's so hard to get judged on editing, because who's going to give you, again, the right feedback about the edit? Because unless someone really knows what they're talking about, you're on your own, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, learn by watching movies and watching, like I did for many years, like watching trailers with no sound.
Yeah.
And then reverse just the sound. My God, when you watch things that you think move fast, turn the sound off, you can be like, it's not moving that fast. So the problem with that is like when you used to see Hollywood trailers or music videos, things go so fast. Now in your edit, you're doing like 4 or 5 frame shot. Now turn the sound off. You're going to realize there's no 4 or 5 frame. It's usually between 8 and 10.
Right.
That's the fastest.
Yeah.
But because you had the audio and the visual together, you think it's fast. So now your cuts are faster than they should be.
Right.
And you think it's cool, but it's not.
Yeah, I think that's a very valuable thing for people to do, is to do that. Turn it once with just the sound and once with just... And whether good or bad, I think it's important that people know that everything that they see has been done intentionally.
Yes, yeah.
And I think another piece is they can find a scene that they like, replay it. Why is everything? Just start asking why. Why? Because then you're going to start to answer, okay, I get why this is done this way. I see why, all of that comes together. And then when you play it in the whole, you're like, oh, now I see why this is done this way. Because there are some times where like you'll see something, you're like, boy, that seemed jarring, but like in the grander scheme, it makes sense.
Yeah, more than the word intentional, I would say purposely.
Yeah.
It's been done intentionally, but there's a purpose.
Yeah.
Because it's going to match. Because I was so tempted when I studied editing in my...
You want to throw everything in one frame, and you're like, oh my God.
And the transition toolkit, you know, and oh my God, I would put transition in
100%.
everything. Yeah. And I thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
Until someone at the balls went trying to tell me, you can't do that anymore.
Well, and that happened to me, and I'm like, am I just being lazy? And I'm like, no, maybe my taste has changed. Like, you feel lazy because you're like, well, I'm not, every frame should have something, every cut should have something, but like, no, doesn't need to.
That was a big thing that sometimes we get compliments on some of my cuts, and someone would ask me, some of those cuts were kind of unusual for the type of product we're making. And some people were asking me, what do you think you did different? And when I worked for a trailer, we were doing trailers, and at the time everything was super fast. So I was bringing the opposite. I was being like longer shots. I was not afraid to just stretch a shot a few more frames. Mm-hmm. And I would do that also with emotions. I would love to do contrast in emotions where you bring the fear until that point where it's too much, and then you just stop it.
Cut, yep.
And you go to another emotions, to laughter or to like dark light, dark, and then boom, you go to something bright, So you just stretch. That's when you're in the zone, you feel it, like, oh shit, I'm getting scared. That's too disturb. Before you can even say the word disturbing, you stop showing.
You're already on.
You're out. So the people, that's what you got to be in the people's mind where they're like, okay, this is getting not even boring anymore because I'm already gone.
Yeah.
So you just give enough. So again, with experience with balls, because especially when you show something that's not really what people are expecting, it takes balls,
Oh yeah.
And that's when the way I would make my cuts different, pushing, just the limit of emotions and visual contrasts, but also to just jump on what I just said about. You should always show the client what he asks you to do. We talked about that. I learned that the hard way because my producer, I thought I had the super mega cut for him. I was so proud. It was a good cut, I'm sure. The guy said and the guy was stressed. Like, we said, what is the one from the script? I said, no, but you give that a chance. I said, okay, I will give it a chance, but first show me my stuff. And I didn't have it. So the guy was so pissed, and I learned the hard way. So I had to recut this thing, and then it was very nice. Come down and said, you know what? Fine, I appreciate that, but first show me because pretty much what's on paper is what I had. That's my brain, that's my vision. The client sees that, give it to them first.
Your last line.
And then
defense.
You know what? Just so you know, I've got this to show you, and don't. Also, another thing leads into editing. You got to be strong about what you just cut. about your edits. You have to have an explanation for any question. Why are we staying so long on this cut? Why didn't we use this one? What you should be strong but that firm, but not too much. You have to find the right,
Well, I think it's important that you have the conversation like, I chose this shot or I chose this because I feel if it's not within what they look for, then say, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not married to it. I just thought, from my shoes, this is where I thought this cut would be better suited.
Always sell it with passion, like, because the client also, a lot of clients, producers, they will go with you. If you sell your thing, they will go with you. Most difficult are like brands, because brands sometimes they have reasons that you don't know about.
Strict guidelines.
Yeah, great guidelines. But otherwise, in more creative jobs, sell your thing, but then know when to back. Because I know so many editors that people don't want to work with because they won't let go.
Too bullish.
I gotta go. Yeah, not even bullish. It just won't let go. You have nice producer going to be like, let's go back to my... And the guy's going to keep on selling his thing. And so, know when to... You have to be strong because they need it. Be strong, be firm, that's my thing. I think it works. Make your offer and then let go.
So maybe like 5 answers just came out to this question, but what's something that you would tell people that are starting or trying to get into this space? We'll keep it broad, whether it's film, editing, what have you.
I mean, first thing, the tool, we sometimes forget it. Cameras, keyboards, they're tools. So first learn to use your tool quickly. Because again, one of my first experience, a guy told me, I don't care if you're a great editor, if you take too long, I'm not interested. I don't have the budget for that.
Learn them hotkeys.
Yep. Hotkeys or whatever keys, like even if you don't have hotkeys, just, do your gymnastic, do work, be fast. Yeah. Be fast with your camera to set up, like know your tool. You gotta, on set, you gotta know, make sure your batteries are, I know it's stupid, batteries are charged. I've got my SD card.
Justin will back me on that.
Yeah, no, you guys are good. You guys are good.
I'm on him about that all the time.
But know your gear, you don't have time when you're under pressure. Clients, it's money for them, even if it's not so much money for you, it's money for them, There's no gear that doesn't work. There's no, I don't have the right cable. So your gear, know your gear, know how to use it quickly because things will change on set, Even if it's not on set, even if it's shooting a body is a short movie, things might change and you got a couple extras that do that for fun. They don't have time for you because you don't have the right lens. Now you want to try this shot. They're going to be gone. You're going to be like, now only one actor. So know your tools, have the right tools with you. Don't over equip yourself, Be good at be very good at what you're using. So something with editing, just be strong and fast. Know your program because editing, that cameras, it's made, it's shown, they show it. The way it's sold to us, it's very easy to use. Everybody can make a movie, but that's not the real world, You got to go down the program with that, the menu of the camera, the menu of the editing software. You got the lights.
It's one part of the puzzle.
It's one part of the puzzle. And that's the one that's very easy to master. It's just time you spend at home, by yourself take your camera, go through your Premiere, go through the menus, try to understand all those, and then slowly, the more confident you are with the tool, then you don't have to worry about the technical part of it. Then now you can be in the zone very quickly because, your fingers don't even think, The menu, where everything is. You know why you're changing the aperture. You know why you're trying this angle. You know why you're asking for 50mm versus the 85. Because it makes sense. You already know what the 85 looks like versus the 50. You don't just switch it to see, how does it look? No, I want the 50 because I know what it looks like already. It's not just to see, does it look better? No, I already know I want it tighter. I want it wider. That's the thing with editing. You know why you're looking for that tool. It's not just to try, how does it affect the sound if I do that? No, you're pulling the drawer, you're in the kitchen, you're pulling the drawer for a specific knife, You're just going, okay, where is it?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that I would say, and it's easy to do for anybody.
So I want to kind of you can answer this as you please if you even feel like you need an answer, but to kind of close, I just want to thank you for being a resource to us because, Justin and I are kind of chickens with our heads cut off a little bit. We're so tunnel vision, but you definitely open our eyes to a lot. And having you on set has been a blessing because you are poking, but in the best way possible. You know, we never take offense to anything or anything the wrong way because you're just like, but what if? And we love that because it's all, we argue with that with each other all the time, especially now we have met you, like, what if we do this? What if we do that? Why? And having purpose with everything. So, you know, there's one story that always sticks out to me on that. There was a shoot that we hired you for that, you know, you basically pulled Justin and I aside and said, look, I don't care who it is, but one of you needs to have a voice. And one of you needs to be a voice to everybody that's here. So it was one of our first projects that had like a lot of people, more than what we're used to having. And I just, you know, that was such a valuable lesson to us. Now, every time Justin and I go out on a shoot, we just always are having, there's so many things that, you know, whether it's budgeting, we've worked with you with, whether it's shots and why lighting and how we reflect and how this and that, set design, you know, there's so many things that we've learned from you that now are like second nature to us. And like it's so, we just really appreciate what you've done for us. Being in a small city and you know, like I said, we're tunnel vision within our zip codes because it's hard for, you want to be so good in your city so that you can expand, but at the same time that kind of works against you because then you become so constricted to the world around you. So we appreciate you opening our world up and, you know, hopefully we get to take more advantage of it outside of the city as time passes, but we just appreciate all,
you guys
all
are doing
the
very good. That's why I'm here because I've been following you and I like what you
literally
do.
at first, and then you know, literally down the hall of spaces at first.
I know you guys are going to be up there.
Sweet, we appreciate that. So, if you have anything that you feel like you want to part the
no,
audience
I mean just in this city, like people really need to get together and understand. You know, we can work together, and it's not against. Like just like we were trying to do, get those. Creative people need to get together to know that they're not alone, that they're not with a crazy brain that's always creating. And, you know, let's work, learn from each other, share. Like, it's more like sharing, like a sharing community, like sharing creation hub, like a hub of creators. Like, that's my dream. Like we talked about having that big hangar house where all creators meet and exchange. And even doesn't only have to be filmmaking. It could be painters, it could be
artists,
writers,
plain
like,
and simple.
Just get that vibe together and that's it. And you guys keep doing what you're doing. You're doing very good.
Appreciate that. Wherever you're watching or listening, give this a like, subscription, whatever works on the platform that you're on. Please do so. And maybe if you send Xavier here a message, he'll send you his reel of when he was on Days of Our Lives, and you get to see young Xavier doing some acting work. We've seen it. We know it's out there. So we'll let him decide who gets that key or not. But thank you so much for being on the episode today.
Thank you.